What if the biggest mistake in the history of the human species has already been made? What if someone, without asking anyone's permission, has already revealed our existence and, more importantly, the location of our planet in the galaxy? And what if someone out there heard? Who did it? When? And above all, is it too late to undo it? Keep watching to find out. November 16th, 1974, Puerto Rico. The air around the Arecibo Observatory is warm and humid. 200 guests in suits and ties are crowding the platform, and in a few minutes, a radio telescope 1,000 feet across, the largest in the world at the time, will be the instrument through which the human species does something it has never done before. At 5 p.m. sharp, for exactly 3 minutes, the transmitter fires a beam of radio waves into the sky, focused by the 1,000-foot dish into a cone so narrow that in the direction of its target, the signal's intensity is equivalent to that of a 20 trillion watt transmitter, the most powerful radio emission ever produced by humanity. That beam is razor tight, focused like a laser, aimed at a precise target, the globular cluster M13, in the constellation Hercules, 300,000 stars, 25,000 light years away. The message was designed primarily by Frank Drake, the father of SETI, the man who in 1960, with an 85-foot radio telescope in West Virginia, had conducted the very first attempt to listen for signals from extraterrestrial civilizations. In those 3 minutes, a binary-coded message was beamed into space, 1,679 bits arranged in a grid of 23 by 73 pixels, forming a mosaic of zeros and ones. From this picture, divided into sections, any aliens who intercepted it could extract information such as the numbers 1 through 10, the doubled helix of DNA, a stylized outline of a human being, a map of the solar system with Earth highlighted, and a schematic of the telescope that sent the message. In other words, a postcard that reads, "Hi, this is what we look like. We live on this planet, and we've got a really big antenna." One thing is missing, though. The message doesn't say where we are in the galaxy. No map, no cosmic address. You might think that was a smart precaution, but it's useless, because a radio beam is like a finger pointing in reverse. Whoever receives it knows exactly where it came from. We didn't write our address in the message. We stamped the postmark on the envelope. Beautiful, right? Moving. Poetic, even. Maybe. But some people say that on that day we committed the greatest act of recklessness in the history of our species. And these aren't just random people saying it. Just a moment, guys. Only 13% of subscribers know when we publish new videos. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because without it, you'll miss formats and documentaries you won't find anywhere else. Yes, that's Stephen Hawking. In 2010, in a Discovery Channel documentary, the great English physicist dropped a line you'd do well to memorize. If aliens ever visit us, the outcome would be much as when Columbus landed in America, which, as we know, didn't turn out well for the Native Americans. Think about that for a second. The man who probably understood the universe better than anyone else on Earth was telling us, don't let them find you. Stay quiet. Don't turn on the lights in the forest. The forest, a word and a concept that Chinese writer Liu Cixin had already put at the center of the debate back in 2008, when he published a novel called The Dark Forest, laying out a hypothesis that struck some as bizarre and others as deeply, disturbingly plausible. Want to hear it? Then keep watching. Liu Cixin's core idea is simple. Terrifying, but simple. Here it is. Our galaxy is a dark forest. Every civilization is an armed hunter moving through the trees like a ghost, trying not to make a sound. Even breathing is held back, because the hunter knows the forest is full of other hunters just like him. And he knows that if he's spotted, the other hunter might not wait to figure out if he's friendly. He might just shoot first without so much as a hello. You're wondering why he would do that? Because of two axioms, says Liu Cixin. First, every civilization wants to survive. Second, you can never know for certain whether another civilization is peaceful or hostile. And from those two premises, following a chilling logical conclusion, The only rational strategy when you discover another civilization is to eliminate it before it eliminates yours. Because even if today it seems peaceful and welcoming, you can't know what it will become in 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, when its technology has grown to the point of being a threat. The result? Every intelligent civilization in the galaxy stays silent. They all hide. The cosmic silence isn't empty. It's full of fear. And anyone stupid enough to send up smoke signals and shout, "We're here," is signaling their own death warrant. Okay, it's a novel, it's fiction. But you ask yourselves, does it sound entirely unreasonable? Look at human history. Look at what happened every single time a technologically advanced civilization encountered a less advanced one. The conquistadors in Mexico, the Americans and the native peoples, the British in Tasmania, European colonialism in Africa. The pattern repeats with the regularity of a law of physics: conquest, exploitation, cultural annihilation, and often biological too. And in almost none of these cases was the conqueror driven by hatred, only by indifference and calculation, which is even worse. And in 1974, we lit a 20 trillion watt bonfire. You're probably wondering, okay, but was the Arecibo message really that dangerous? After all, it was aimed at a star cluster 25,000 light years away. It'll be 50,000 years before anyone receives it and can respond. Fair point. But the Arecibo message wasn't the only one, and it's not even the main problem. The main problem is radio leakage. Ever since Guglielmo Marconi transmitted the first transoceanic radio signal in 1901, Earth has been emitting electromagnetic waves into space. And even before the Arecibo message, the Soviets had already had the idea. In 1962, from the Yevpatoria radar in Crimea, they beamed a Morse code message toward Venus that said 3 words: Mir, Lenin, USSR. More propaganda than science, sure, but the principle was the same: a radio signal deliberately sent into space. Since then, TV broadcasts, military communications, radar, all this noise has been propagating at the speed of light in every direction for over a century, which means there's a bubble of radio signals centered on Earth with a radius of over 100 light years and still expanding. Inside that bubble, there are hundreds of stars. And any civilization with a sensitive enough radio telescope inside that bubble already knows we're here. But wait, it's more nuanced than that. Our TV and radio signals are weak and omnidirectional. They scatter with distance, and at a few dozen light years, they become very hard to distinguish from cosmic background noise. Hard, though not impossible. It all depends on how big the listener's antenna is. We with Arecibo could pick up extremely faint signals at enormous distances, and Arecibo was 1970s technology. A civilization with a few thousand years technological head start on us might have ears we can't even imagine. Military and astronomical radars, on the other hand, are a different story. 1,000 times more powerful and highly directional. Those can be detected from much farther away. And then there are the deliberate messages. After Arecibo, the cosmic calls were beamed from the Yevpatoria radio telescope in Crimea in 1999 and 2003. Targeted messages aimed at specific stars, the closest about 33 light years away. That signal will reach its destination in 2036. In 2008, another message was transmitted toward Gliese 581 in the constellation Libra, just 20 light years away. That one will arrive in 2029, 3 years from now. And if someone answers, we could hear back around 2049. Not in millennia, within a generation. Someone among us is knocking on other people's doors, and nobody asked whether the rest of us were okay with it, which immediately raises a question. This is where the debate gets white hot and deeply human, because the most urgent question may not be what do we say, but who gets to decide. In 2015, a group of scientists and intellectuals, including Hawking himself and the astronomer Royal Martin Rees, signed a public statement calling for a moratorium on any deliberate transmissions into space. The argument was simple. A decision that could have consequences for the entire human species cannot be made by a handful of researchers with access to a satellite dish. It requires a worldwide consensus. It requires a debate. It requires that humanity decide together. But on the other side of the barricade, there are those who argue the opposite with equal passion. Douglas Vakoch, president of METI International, an organization explicitly dedicated to sending messages into space, says that hiding is both useless and counterproductive. His reasoning? If an alien civilization has the technology to cross interstellar distances and pay us a visit, then it also has the technology to find us anyway, signal or no signal. Hiding from an adversary that advanced is like a toddler covering his eyes and thinking he's invisible. And then there was Carl Sagan, also a supreme optimist, who argued that any civilization advanced enough to master interstellar travel would necessarily be one that has outgrown its aggression, because any species that doesn't will destroy itself before reaching that level of technology. In other words, if they make it all the way here, they have to be the good guys. Nice thought, right? Reassuring? Not really. The problem is that there's not a shred of evidence that it's true. It's an act of faith, and when the stakes are the survival of your species, faith isn't exactly the most solid strategy. There's an angle to this story that almost nobody considers, and it could be the most dangerous of all. It's not the risk that aliens come to conquer us. It's the risk of what happens to us when we receive the message. Think about it. Imagine that tomorrow morning SETI confirms it has received an unmistakable artificial signal from a star 30 light years away. What happens? Panic? Euphoria? Probably both. But then what? Who controls the information? What happens if China intercepts the signal first and decides to keep it to itself? Or if the message contains technological information that could alter the planet's geopolitical balance? Or if it contains instructions, build this device, and we follow them without understanding what we're building? In the world of cybersecurity, there's a concept called a Trojan horse, a gift that looks useful, but once you open it, destroys you from the inside. An alien message could be exactly that. Not a physical weapon, an information weapon. A package of knowledge designed to look like a gift, but that actually destabilizes the civilization that receives it. Imagine what would happen if that message contained the cure for cancer, but also the blueprints for a weapon no government would be willing to leave unbuilt. Science fiction? Maybe, but philosopher Nick Bostrom at the University of Oxford wrote an entire paper on information hazards, and SETI appears explicitly on the list of risks. And that's exactly the point. The aliens don't need to cross the galaxy to hurt us. All it takes is a message. All it takes is an idea. And here's the question you've been waiting for. What do we do? Hide or step into the open? The truth, and you may or may not like hearing it, is that nobody knows. Nobody. Not Hawking, not Sagan, not Lucian, not the most brilliant astrophysicist on the planet. Because we're trying to make a rational decision about a problem where we don't even know a single one of the fundamental parameters. Whether aliens exist, how many there are, where they are, how they think, what they want. It's like playing chess without knowing how many pieces your opponent has, what color they are, or whether they're even playing chess at all. Here's what we do know. First, Earth is anything but silent. Signals, faint but real, have been leaving this planet for over a century. Second, somebody has deliberately sent targeted messages toward nearby stars, and the first one could arrive at its destination within a few years. Third, there is no international body with the authority to decide whether or what to transmit. None. The most important decision in the history of our species is in the hands of anyone with access to a sufficiently powerful antenna. And fourth, and this may be the most important point of all, in 2024, the Declaration of Principles for SETI was updated, a document by the International Academy of Astronautics that lays out guidelines for what to do if an extraterrestrial signal is detected. The document exists, the procedures exist, but they're voluntary. No government on Earth is required to follow them. Think about that for a moment. We have binding international protocols for everything under the sun, but not one for first contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence. Not one. Maybe it's time to fix that. Maybe it's time to decide as a species before someone else decides for us. Because if Luciction's dark forest is right, even a little, then the silence isn't empty. The silence is strategy, and we've already broken it. What do you think? Should we keep transmitting or go silent? Drop it in the comments, and this time the question isn't rhetorical. It's the most important question our species has ever faced. So we talked about whether anyone out there is listening, but here's the twist that keeps the cosmologists up at night. Even if alien civilizations exist, even if they wanted to reach us, the universe itself may have already closed the doors between us. There are 3 cosmological barriers working right now that are quietly cutting humanity off from the rest of the cosmos forever. 94% of the universe is already beyond our reach, and that number grows every second. If you want to understand why the silence in the sky may not be a choice at all, but a law of physics already at work, watch our next video, the 3 cosmological barriers that will isolate us forever. The link is in the description. See you on the other side.